welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. Well, there's been a little bit of talk about why top YouTubers, bodybuilders, etc., who used to preach eating multiple meals a day or eating tons of protein a day or eating, tons of protein throughout the day are now changing their stance and having 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, or Rich Piana is the latest one, which actually kind of sparked a lot of it. First was Mike Rashid, who's doing the 1 meal a day vegan-based or plant-based diet. And then Mark Lobliner is now talking about the intermittent fasting. And then Rich Piana just came out with his 1 meal of protein, but he's eating rice throughout the day, which is not intermittent fasting, but it's a form of like protein fasting, which is something completely different. Anyways, so why are these guys, there's a little bit of criticism as to like, well, these guys said you had to eat like this and intermittent fasting sucked, etc., etc. Let's break it down. We got to stop and kind of reassess here as what's going on. And myself, I went through this before they went through this. So this is why I understand it and why I'm going to be able to explain it to you guys a little differently and hopefully a little more understandable than what they're doing right now. None of these guys are talking about getting huge or getting bigger or getting jacked on these diets that they're doing. Plant-based, intermittent fasting, the rice diet with the protein, none of them. They're all saying the same thing. Mark, Mike, and Rich are all saying the same thing. They actually all want to tone down. They don't want to carry the amount of mass because they're not competing anymore. As you get up there and get a little bit older, you realize it's not healthy. I think Mike's down 20 pounds, Rich is down a little bit, and Mark said he was coming down too to try to be more functional. Now, with these new goals comes new training, new diets, new everything. You're basically revamping your whole fucking system that you normally do. Now, I would say, my personal opinion is, to get as big as you possibly can, as fast as you can, you have to be anabolic a lot throughout the day. Anabolic, not catabolic. Okay? Catabolic, the tearing down of muscle tissue, anabolic, the building of muscle tissue. Now, obviously you want to be more anabolic than catabolic throughout the day, and the way that you can do that is literally by feeding your body throughout the day at regular intervals. It's like having an IV drip. When your body needs the nutrients, it's there. So in intermittent fasting, you could possibly be more of a catabolic state throughout the day than anabolic. The times that you're feeding your body throughout the day more, you're going to be more of an anabolic and catabolic. Now, you don't stay on one of these for 24 hours. Okay, it's not like you're the anabolic for 24 hours or you're catabolic for 24 hours. Your body swings back and forth between anabolic and catabolic throughout the day. Now, to build muscle, obviously you want to be more in the anabolic. At the end of the day, let's say, just for instance, we'll throw some numbers out there. Let's say there's 26 shifts into anabolic and there's 22 in catabolic. You're going to be anabolic most of the day. You're probably going to build muscle in that state. Okay, that's with the multiple feedings, the high protein diet, etc., etc., etc. Now, the intermittent fasting thing is, of course, they're all trying to lose weight or drop muscle or become healthier or more functional. And, they're dropping weight and they're not dropping the weight that they thought they were. So how does the intermittent fasting work, and how does Rich's diet in specific? This is the one I want to talk about the most, the 1 protein meal a day, 100 grams of protein for someone his size. How does that work? Well, I made another video called the amino acid pool, okay? The AAP, amino acid pool. This is kind of a genetic fail-safe for us so that we won't die and we'll still be able to maintain our muscle mass and hunt and gather and kill and fucking do all the shit we did as cavemen. This is like a fail-safe that our body has to basically keep us from withering away as fast as we would if we didn't have it. Now that amino acid pool, let's say you're taking 100 grams of protein and that gets broken down and added to the amino acid pool at night, right? That amino acid pool always has amino acids in it. Like you've been putting amino acids in that pool basically since you were born. So they're constantly stored in the amino acid pool and then called upon when needed to be used for muscle building or even sometimes energy. It's used to convert to glucose, but Rich is eating plenty of rice. Excuse me. So he's getting enough carbohydrates, enough energy, enough glucose. So more than likely, he's never tapping into the amino acid pool for aminos for energy. So everything he's eating is getting put in the amino acid pool. And I think a lot of people, especially when they're trying to maintain muscle mass, don't really need the amount of protein you need as when you're building muscle. Now this varies very much from individual to individual. I've seen people like Jay Cutler who was well over 300 pounds and was eating like 260 as far as protein. And I've seen guys that weigh 150 pounds and need 300 grams just to gain a single ounce of muscle. It varies so widely, and I think honestly, there really hasn't been many studies on it for bodybuilders, but I think this amino acid pool gets depleted in certain individuals rather than more than others. That causes the body not to be anabolic. It's missing amino acids to build muscle tissue that when it doesn't have it, it can't build muscle. So it builds muscle at a slower rate because it's depending more on the aminos that are coming in rather than the aminos that are already there. Some people, I feel like their amino acid pool stores amino acids in greater amounts. It's not tapping into them specifically because it's probably using body fat for energy. The person probably has a lot of glucose to use, and it doesn't really need to tap into them. So it's just using them as needed for hair, skin, nails, muscle repair, stuff like that. So someone like Rich, for instance, who has a very hard time losing muscle, I guarantee he's storing more amino acids in the amino acid pool than I am. I can lose muscle very easily if I stop training the right way and I stop eating as much protein as I need. I'll drop that weight very quickly. But at the same time, when you're trying to reduce your body weight in general, you have the stimulus of the weight training, right? And then you have the amino acids that are in the food and the amino acid pool, okay? These three factors right here, combined with the stimulation, you're going to be able to maintain muscle mass. And once you're regaining or maintaining muscle is a lot easier and takes a lot less effort than actually building muscle. So that's why I can go in the gym now. I don't have to bench press ever again. I can use the chest machine. It's a chest press. My chest is not much smaller than it was when I was bigger. I mean, yes, everything in general has dropped in size, but the development is still there from using the lighter weights. So if I started eating again and I started pushing the weights higher and heavier, it'll go back up. But I'm able to maintain a higher muscle mass, a higher body weight than the average person because I already built the muscle and I've lost the excess or extreme or whatever you want to call it from doing the extreme things like the heavy benches, the heavy squats. You lose that, but you're able to maintain, whereas the person like who's 160 pounds or wants to be 200 pounds, they have to work twice as hard as you do to get to 200 pounds, then it's harder for them to maintain it. When you've been 250, to drop down to 200 and you started from 173, you're going to maintain that 200 a lot easier. Okay, because you have the stimulus, you have the amino acids from the food and the amino acid pool, and they're constantly there. So this is why Rich can eat protein once a day, because his body has a large amount of amino acids in the amino acid pool. Like, this thing is so important. I don't understand why people don't know this or they don't understand how it works, because this stuff that you're going to have here is in biology class in high school. And, I mean, I listened to it in high school and didn't really understand what it was about, but I didn't realize it had an application for bodybuilding and stuff that we're doing here. So this stuff I feel like is super important. I put out just one video on it, and the response was so-so. I think people don't understand it and they underestimate it to the point where they think it doesn't matter. But now you're looking at individualities, whereas how come Rich's body does this? How come my body does that? And now you can take all the guys and say they're all on steroids. Well, they're all on steroids. Now, natural guys, like one of my former training partners, is doing just intermittent fasting. The kid looks great. He's 40 years old. He looks like he's 25. Why? Because he had built the muscle already, went off the steroids, went into doing intermittent fasting, and now his body's able to maintain that muscle mass. And, you know, people are always, well, how the fuck can he do that? How can he do that? When you've been like these guys to a certain degree of muscle mass. Jay Cutler, look at Jay Cutler. He maintains a 260-pound physique right now, and he doesn't even count his macros. He's not being good about, I mean, he's good about the food that he takes in, and it's clean foods, but he's not sitting there counting every macro, counting every carb, counting every protein. He probably doesn't even cover the protein like that you normally would to maintain that muscle mass, but he's able to maintain it. He goes in the gym, uses much lighter weights, so it's easier on his joints. Like, we see this over and over again. You know, someone like Ronnie Coleman can't do that because he's ruined his joints and his body and his back and his discs to the point he's had 2 hip replacements. He's fucked. But you look at guys that have, you know, toned down their training and able to maintain a physique still, and this is what they're doing. They're eating less food, they're training with lighter weights, but they're able to maintain it due to the amino acid pool and the muscle that they've already built. So hopefully this kind of explains it to you guys a little bit more in depth, and that it's not a scam. It's not like, well, the steroids are doing it. No, this happens for natural athletes too. This happens for if you're a fucking human being, this works for you. BioStrengthTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostrength.com is the blog. It's It Works Bicep, and we're out.